Good morning, everyone. A good tavach, Shavua Tov. We are continuing here in the Psukim of Bitachon, in the verses that teach us and inspire us in the world of Bitachon, to trust in Hashem. And today's verse is from Tehillim 78, verse 7. V'yasimu be'elokim kislam, v'lo yishkechu. Says the verse that so that they may place their trust in Hashem. V'lo yishkechu, and not forget, ma'alulei keil, the works of Hashem, u'mitzvoisav yitzayru, and when they don't forget all of the magnificent works that Hashem does, then they will safeguard and they will keep His mitzvahs. Says the Radak on this verse over here, how does a person come not to forget about all the tremendous, monumental things that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does in his life? Explains the Radak that if a person continues to repeat all of the wondrous events that took place in their life, he speaks about how HaKadosh Baruch Hu did this for me and He did that for me, and he goes through every little detail that there is. What will happen? So then this person will not forget all of the goodness, all of the greatness, all the blessings that Hashem has brought to him. And once the person himself is busy speaking about it, so then the future generations that come after him, they will be inspired also to trust in the Rabbi Shalom in order to safeguard the commandments. Why does a person want to keep mitzvahs? Why does a person dedicate himself to a life of Torah? When you believe in the Rabbi Shalom and you see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is taking care of you and He's guarding you, watching over you, like we had in last week's Parsha, Loi ala lechem levada yiches ha'adam. It's not only from the bread that was falling in the wilderness that a man lived. Ela pi kol davar ha'maitzi mipi Hashem. Rather, it's from everything that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has done and did for us. And when a person passes that down to the next generation and explains how Hashem took care of me, how Hashem watched over me, there were difficult times in my life, and yet even that Hashem pulled me through. So that is so inspiring to the person that is telling it over themselves, and certainly the next generation can sit in awe as they hear the stories and they hear the comments and the praises to the Rabbi Shalom. So then what ends up happening is that next generation, although perhaps not the same miraculous things happened to them, nor did the same open miracles or the open hand of Hashem, the way that He took care of them, happened to them as they could see it. Nevertheless, since that I know that from my father, my grandfather, my uncles and others, HaKadosh Baruch Hu did all of this, therefore it inspires me to be someone that will safeguard the mitzvahs of Hashem. There is a beautiful story of a Holocaust survivor who had gone through the infernos of Auschwitz, and when he emerged from the camps alive and the war was over and he was rehabilitating himself in the DP camps, he was still wearing his Holocaust uniform. And the Holocaust uniform, the famous pictures that we see of the stripes that the prisoners wore, he managed to keep this with him all the while, even after he was given civilian clothing. And eventually, when the man came to America and he settled down and he found a woman who had also gone through the war, and they built a family together of Yidden, of beautiful Jewish young boys and girls, and those children went on to get married. So at the Seder table, the father every single year would take his clothing from the concentration camps, put them on a hanger, and he would hang them from the chandelier in the dining room. And at the time that they would say over certain words in the Haggadah of Avadim Hayunu Leparba Mitzrayim, that we were slaves unto Paro Mitzrayim, but now HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us out with a long stretched arm and a mighty hand, he would point to the garments from the Holocaust, to his uniform, and he would say, I too was a slave unto Hitler, Yamach Shemai V'Zichroi, and I was there and I almost lost my life 1,000 times. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu, in His ultimate mercy and His chesed and His kindness, He tried so hard to take care of me, and he did so much for me, and I survived miraculously. And he would point to the beged, to the clothing hanging from the chandelier, and he would say, you see that? That is the proof that HaKadosh Baruch Hu took care of me. At the end of the man's life, he left over in his last will and testament that he wanted to be buried together with his uniform from Auschwitz, because he said that would be the greatest proof to HaKadosh Baruch Hu that if he had wavered at all in his commitments to Judaism, if he wasn't as religious as he could have been, he didn't learn as much Torah as he could have learned, he didn't do as many mitzvahs as he could have done, he would say, look, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you are the one who put me through the concentration camps. You're the one who put me through this inferno of Gehenna, the fires that were burning around me everywhere. You are the one who made a Hitler Yamach Shemai and a Mengele Yamach Shemai. And that's all because of that. I had to go through the most painful years of my life, which took me away from tefillin, took me away from tzitzis, took me away from learning, took me away from Shabbos. And the fact that I picked myself back up afterwards and rebuilt my life as a frum yid, that itself should be a standing testimony to me. And he wanted this clothing, the uniform, to be in his grave, so that when he would go before the Kisei HaKavod, the throne of glory, if Hashem would have any tainas, any complaints against him, he would show the clothing and he would say, look Hashem, it's because of where you put me in my life. But the children said, how could it be? We need to show our children, our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren in every generation what our father went through, so they will know the strength that they come from, and they will know the great miracles that happened for us, how HaKadosh Baruch Hu has taken care of him, and therefore the rest of us are a product of that miracle. And the Beis Din paskin the Shaila, and they said that his clothing does not need to travel with him to the world to come. HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows very well who he is. And when he will stand before Hashem, he's going to have a welcoming to the world to come. And if Hashem has any tainas, any complaints, the man will be able to speak for himself, and he will tell them it's all because of the Holocaust. But you children, you and your grandchildren and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren, you need to see the miracles that Hashem did. And therefore they kept the prisoners' garments and the uniform for themselves, and every year, even after the father died, they would hang these from the chandelier and they would recount the great miracles that Hashem did for them. And that's what it's saying over here. Once that we don't forget about everything that HaKadosh Baruch Hu did for us, his miraculous works and the like, then u'mitzvoisav yinsoiru, the mitzvahs of Hashem we will safeguard and we will keep with all of our heart, all of our soul, and all of our might. Have a wonderful day.